Nerd Reactor, roll out.
Bernardo, how's it going?
Going great. I'm looking at that shelf back there. I'm like, oh man, what's he got on there? It looks like a lot of fun.
Funko Pops,
Yeah,
some Witcher stuff, Transformers.
okay.
Yeah, I need something with time loop related
Yeah, you
stuff.
gotta have some. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe like
I
Bill
need I
Murray.
need to have a whole wall of stuff here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel so sparse compared to you.
But yeah, it was Omni Loop, right? So let's
Yeah.
talk about that. The origin, the idea, because you worked on a lot of like just quirky ideas, just out there ideas. So I'm pretty sure this is like another thing that just makes you excited. Like, how weird and crazy can we get this? And so yeah, what was the inspiration between with the time loop and because you have Groundhog Day, Edge of Tomorrow, anything of those movies inspired you? And then why did you want to make this, or how did you want to make this like different from the other movies?
Yeah, for sure. I love time travel movies, just full stop, period. I also really love time loop movies. I think it's always a fun conceit. I don't personally get sick of them. I think Edge of Tomorrow is incredible. I think Groundhog Day is perfect. And Happy Death Day, even things like Mrs. Peregrine's House of Peculiar Children or whatever that movie was called, where you're like, oh, this is actually a time loop movie. I didn't realize that. Um, I think I actually looked at Edge of Tomorrow specifically for some sequences and some pacing things when I was writing the script way back when, but I haven't consciously revisited them. I was too scared to rewatch Groundhog Day, for fear that it would mess me up forever. But for me, the idea came all at once. It came from you know I was close to someone that was diagnosed with a terminal illness and they'd passed away, and I wanted to do something that was around that and death and dying, but in a life affirming way and in a way that's sort of uplifting or possibly even fun, which I guess is where the time travel things come in. And I also had all these floating time travel idea things, time travel pills. I had the idea of someone with a black hole in their chest, and all of a sudden it all kind of like filtered into one thing, and I realized that all these different strands were actually all the same idea. So it was really fun to kind of like synthesize it all into this thing. And then I was like, well, I don't want to just remake Groundhog Day. I don't want to just remake Edge of Tomorrow. So for me, it was like, what am I adding new to this? And how am I exploring something different? And I think for me, it really is the difference is that for Zoya, for the main character in Omni Loop, it is a choice that she makes every time. She's choosing to stay in this loop. She is taking the pill and going back every time. She's not trying to get out of it. She's trying to go further back if she can. So it becomes about the avoidance of life rather than trying to like get out of this loop so that you can live life. It really becomes about this choice where this person is too scared to live life. And then I also just like the idea, since we've had all these other time travel movies, well, we can start and we're already in the loop and people will get caught up to it really quick. We don't have to have the first time the character wakes up and they're like, wait a second, everything is repeating. Like we can be a little bit ahead of it. And then, playing with certain things. I think Edge of Tomorrow is really good at jumping around and switching perspectives. At one point, you're with like Emily Blunt, and you realize like he's done this a bunch of times, even more than you've seen as an audience. I think that movie is so fun. That moment is like perfect. Um, anyway, sorry, I got a little sidetracked talking about Edge of Tomorrow.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, what I loved about this is how it just starts off like with Zoe already doing this and she already knows what to do and because of the pill, So that one it gets things out of the way so you can get the story started. And I was wondering what the process was like for the casting Mary-Louise Parker and then Ayo Edebiri.
Yeah, I mean, for both of them, I had just been fans of them for a long time. I was a huge fan of Io as a comedian and her podcast appearances, and just thought she was so funny. And I just kind of wrote her this note saying like, I think you're incredible, and let's talk. And yeah, just got along really well right away, talking about movies and all that. Mary-Louise, similarly, I was just a fan of hers. I'd seen her on stage a couple times, and she's really incredible. If you ever get a chance to see her in a play on Broadway, she's just a phenomenal actor. yeah, it's like it's crazy. It feels like magic or something where you're like, how can someone inhabit another person so fully? Um, and so yeah, I just thought they would both be great, and I thought they would both be great together. I thought they both have different energies that would sort of like mesh well, but also kind of like create that kind of spark and excitement between the two of them. And they got along super well, really, really friendly. It was hard to keep them in line sometimes. I felt like they were like, just having fun. I was like, we have to make a movie, guys.
It's
No, it
like, yeah.
was a lot of fun work. And Mary-Louise was very like worried about all the science fiction stuff. She was like, I don't understand any of this. I was like, it's okay, don't worry about it. We'll get there.
And yeah, the science fiction part, there's like the black hole in the chest. So for me, like I see that as a metaphor.
Yeah.
And what was that like for you? Like just trying to come up with the idea for that something that still fits into the science fiction realm, but then and can be like, oh, this is like about like life and death.
Yeah. I again, the black hole, I had it for so long. It was in a different thing, it was in a different script, and it was always this idea that someone just gets diagnosed with a black hole. I don't know where that came from. I think maybe, it's like the idea of like X-ray scans for sort of like lung cancer or something like that, where you have this kind of black mass there. And I just like the idea that it's like you get sucked into yourself. Just sounded cool and sci-fi to me. Um, my producer, Ben, his father-in-law is like a physicist at Princeton. He's like one of the smartest people in the world. And he was like, "Oh, you're making a movie about black holes," and started talking to me about like black holes and what black holes really are. And I was like, "This is so I don't understand any of this." Um, so it's almost like a child's understanding of what a black hole is, which is just it's this thing that like sucks everything in, and yeah, it's obviously a metaphor. It's pretty on the nose, but hopefully it's also treated as like a real thing where she's got a black hole in her chest, and it's there because she took a whole bunch of pills, and it's created this kind of void inside of her, this cavity inside of her, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great image. Sometimes you just have to take a second and be proud of what you've done.
Oh yeah, and because like the story there is a lot of because Zoya, she's taking the pill, she gets to redo things, and it also touches on the aspect of like regret and then changing things. So I don't know if you ever felt like that like in your previous projects where you feel like, what if I change this and that? Because you as a writer or director, you'd be afforded to just rewrite and just do reshoots, right? So what was that like?
Yeah, as a writer, it's definitely you get a lot of like you're like, well, I can always just change this. When you're on set, you're like, oh no, this is gonna be the movie forever. Yeah, I actually I'm pretty good about living life with not too many like regrets, where I'm like, for sure I would change that. I have anxiety about regret where I'm like, should I change that? Should I not? But it's very rare that I have something where I'm like, oh, I should have done this differently or I should have done that differently. Mostly just kind of like I don't know. I don't know how any of it led to where I'm at right now, and I try to just appreciate where I'm at in this moment. Um, I think for me, a lot of it comes from time itself just really freaks me out. The fact that like we can only kind of move forward and then just life is as it is. The permanence of death and the permanence of life and of new life. Those kind of things just like freak me out. That like when you have a child, when you have a baby, like that didn't exist and now it is, and it's a thing and it's here in the world. And then with death too, that this person could be here and then to be gone. I think any change like that, just like I don't know, it really just it freaks me out is the best way that I can describe it. So any kind of like relationship that ended, or a friend I'm no longer close to, or if I ever moved, or if I ever like, when we moved out of our childhood home, stuff like that, where it's just like that change always just kind of like triggers this like feeling in me, and a lot of the movie probably comes from that feeling. I'm sure there's a name for it. In Portuguese, we call it saudade, but I'm sure there's a better name for it.
Oh yeah. So that's all the time I have, Bernardo. But I just want to say it's been a pleasure chatting with you about Omni Loop, and yeah, can't wait for like the movie to come out and just have everyone else watch it and enjoy the time loop story.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully at some point over my lifetime I get a Omni Loop Funko Pop and you get to
Yeah, yeah, I'll get that for sure.
that would be sick. That
Yeah.